It's live. Yeah, it's live now. So
Okay, all right. Call meeting to order at 4:01 p.m. Approval of the minutes of the March 3rd, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Is that you,
Second.
Bill? Second?
Steve, second.
Okay, all right. Motion second, Bill and Steve. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. All right. Motion passed. Moving on to a review of the financial statement and the dashboard. Looks like our water revenue and expenses on the summary of the dashboard report is showing revenue was slightly down for this period, about $7,000 in the water. The revenue, the loss is about 44,000 better than budget. So making a net profit of about $228,000 against a budget of $92,000 for this period. So we have continued to produce and sell more water than we had planned, but with the plant slowing down and some of the other, it's probably gonna be less than that in the month of April. On our expense comparison, the labor is down, and the maintenance is down from budget. So those are the two items that are impacting the reduced expenses for the water. Jumping down to the sewer revenue and expense summary. Revenue and sewer was also down from budget this month by about $8,000. Our expenses were also less than budget by about $61,000, creating a reduced loss from budget of about $43,000. So the loss of revenue there is $75,000 for the year, and against the increase in the profit in the water, giving us a net profit for the year on both companies, sewer and the water combined. Maintenance is one of the items that is below budget in the expense category. And utilities are down a little bit below what we had budgeted. Labor is about on track with where we had budgeted to be with. So that's what generating these numbers. Roger, you got anything you want to comment on those?
just a couple of comments. We're going to watch the budget pretty closely here. As you alluded to, I believe the revenues are going to be decreasing pretty substantially this next month, and probably for as long as this COVID-19 deal is going on. We noticed that the water use at the plants have dropped off quite a bit. Now, this month reflects the first month that we've been fully loaded with our labor. We have all the positions, new positions are filled, and so our labor expenses are going to start to pick up from here. One of the things I'll be watching for is trying to minimize overtime to the greatest extent we can. But we're going to still have a need occasionally for that. So we'll just have to do the best we can. On the maintenance side of things, we have delayed a couple of things. One big item that we need to do is we're going to clean well number 1 here probably towards last part of this fiscal year. So that's going to be one that we'll have to take on. I've got some other things I'm working on that probably of a little lesser extent, but That said, we'll be watching the budget pretty closely to try to minimize our expense structure to the greatest extent possible to be able to match what we think our revenues are going to be.
Okay. On the trial balance report, we'll note that the cash is $968,642. And that compares to $827,275 from a year ago. So we've been able to increase our cash balance during this period of time with the additional water revenues and all. So,
Mr. Chairman, at some point in time, we'll probably want to talk about, I don't know how all this is going to work out. We probably need to project what the capital expense structure is going to look like for the rest of the year. And we may want to start repaying the general fund back for some of that we pulled out to work on the lagoon.
okay, all right. Any other comments from anybody else? Everybody good? Okay. Moving on to an item that is a continuation of last month. Mr. Weldon at 7539 US Highway 62, the billing appeal. Mr. Weldon, Roger sent him a letter explaining our position on the bill and that he should pay the $368.77. Mr. Weldon wrote a response back thanking us for our time and our effort, but he is denied the adjustment request from the water. So he's trying to state that the accuracy of the meter, saying that the board's determination was considering the accuracy of the meter as the primary issue. Goes into a long detailed explanation in his letter and basically saying it's the accuracy of the billing, not the meter. And he requests the board exercise its discretion as authorized in section 50.44D of the ordinance as it relates to this complaint concerning the accuracy of billing. Did you all get a copy of that in your packet, that letter?
Yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
You did. And the details.
Yes,
yes.
Okay.
yes.
Anybody got any thoughts on that? I mean, our feeling is that, and Roger, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but that you and I have talked, and that we feel that the amount of the water could possibly have gone through the meter. Whether we read it or we didn't read it, we gave him credit for the minimum usage. But we're fighting over $368 here, and I don't know if we want to make an additional concession on that 368. His only other alternative, way I see it, is to take it to the board, to the city council. And I don't know if we want something going to the city council for $368. I don't. Mr. Attorney, do you have a comment on that?
Well, that would be his, if he wanted to take it to the city council, that would be his privilege, not ours. I mean, we're just doing it. We've done our job. If he thinks we didn't do it right, he can go complain to the city council. But Roger, I'm just now seeing this letter, but Roger, he says it's physically impossible to use 131,600 gallons in a month. Comment on that.
You know, I would contend that maybe he's right from an inside bathroom sink or something like that, but if an outside hydrant was turned on, that would be incorrect. if an outside hydrant was turned on, they could run as much as 7-8 gallons a minute, and you could use the 131,000 gallons of water. I mean, he in his opinion probably has a valid point. If it's inside the house, it'd be probably hard to use that amount of water. But if somebody were to turn on the outside hydrant, it'd be pretty easy to go through that much water. So.
With
That's the
the
problem. We don't have anything but, our meter reading records show that the meter was read. I mean, so when the data collectors came in, it showed the meter reading being same as the previous month. Now, for me to tell you whether or not it was read or not, I don't know. I mean, it just from the office side of things, that's what our records show. And, I understand his point in that it, unlikely that all occurred in 1 month's time, but it is possible. I can tell you that it is possible. If an outside hydrant was turned on, it would be possible to run that amount of water.
So,
Roger,
I'm
this
re-
is Steve. We asked him that in that meeting, and he said he had them all cut off so they wouldn't freeze.
Oh, he had them all turned off, or?
That's what he said in the meeting. I mean, that because I asked him, I thought somebody might have backed up there and filled a tank up or something. And
Yeah.
he said, no, they were all cut off, so it wouldn't freeze. I think what he's contending here is in the inaccuracy in billing, whether it's a meter reader or the meter, is an inaccuracy. I think that he never was billed correctly from day one, because I don't think the meter was ever read.
That's one scenario, Steve. It could very well be that the meter reader entered a meter reading in the data collector and went on to the next residence, knowing that the house is empty, or he could have very well read it. That's
Showing it empty, yeah. Yeah, if you took that over a course of a year when he's showing zero usage, that'd be only, what is $300 over a year, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I just go back to what you said. If you believe that the meter ran, the meter works, things of that nature, we've given the guy some credit. I think we're good. He's arguing that we haven't billed him accurately, but his argument is really about the meter and the water running through the meter as being possible. And if you feel like the water ran through it, we've given him a break, and we have to go with what we chose last month, is my feeling.
I think here's the flux of his point, Bill. He's claiming that most likely if there was a leak, that it occurred over many months. And if the meter wasn't read, he wasn't informed, so he could not do anything about it. I think that's the flux of his claim. And that if he had been told about it, that he probably could have addressed the leak. I think that's what his point was on that. And, so my point is based on the information that I had in the computer, I have to assume the meter was read, based from our standpoint. And when we plug it in, it wasn't skipped. There was reading in the data collector. So it becomes an issue of who's right and who's wrong,
I'm not following his argument. Makes no sense to me. His fourth paragraph, in order to account for the impossible usage for the 2/18/2020 reading, water would have to have flowed through the meter in a previous billing cycle. What's he talking about?
He's talking over multiple months, Greg.
So what? It's still flowed through there.
You have the table, Greg, on there's another page. Look at the data.
Yeah, the data's on the following page, but his point is, I think that what the point is that he's trying to make is it's highly unlikely that amount of money, that amount of water flowed through that service in 1 month period of time. So he's saying it's likely that it probably occurred maybe over the whole time that he had vacated the house.
Okay, let me ask you this, Roger. Roger, if if that 131,600 gallons was used in a linear fashion over that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, over that year, would the bill have been less? Did we charge more because it was a greater usage? What if we spread that 131,600 over the full year? Would the bill be less?
Well, that's what my compromise was to him, Greg, basically, is to do just that. When we, I'm looking at the original computation was $451.38. And then in the letter I sent to him, we did just that. I said, okay, I'm gonna give you credit for the 2,000 gallons you've already paid for. And then the reality is the rest of it billed off the end of the last month is going to be the lowest cost alternative because we've got a tiered rate structure, declining rates. So the more you use, the less you pay per unit. So I've got it calculated at the lowest amount that I possibly could do it,
So there's really no question, but that sometime between December 15th of 2018 and February 18th of 2020, 131,600 gallons flowed through that meter. There's no question that happened, right?
That's what our belief is. I've had the meter checked multiple times, and that's the reading that's on that meter right now.
Well, and he's not denying that. This letter says he's not denying.
I think he is saying that, it's that he does not believe that it went through there in a 1 month period of time.
Which is fine because we're agreeing with him. We're giving him the benefit.
I don't know, but what he's implying there is had he known that amount of flow was going through the meter, he would have took steps to rectify the problem. And that he wasn't made aware of that, then he was not able to do that. So that amount of flow went through that meter setting without him knowing about it.
And if he wants to make that claim, he needs to make that to the city council. We don't have the ability to, if he used the water, we don't have the ability not to charge him for it. The only time we have an ability to adjust is if he claims that he didn't actually use the water. But he's not claiming that. He's just claiming that we made a mistake, so we should have let him know so that he could have gone and turned the water off. And so he's making a liability claim, and he needs to make that to the city council, not to us. We don't have that authority.
Well, I mean, I don't want to belabor the issue, but one of his paragraphs, and I don't know exactly what he's talking about, the readings cannot be accurate as recorded. So, he is indeed arguing that the reading is probably not accurate.
Yes.
I can tell you that the meter that serves that residence out there right now has the reading in there that's in the computer. What it had before that, now I can only rely on what the meter reader had in his records,
You mean the meter reading back in December of 18 of 471,400?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I had in the records, so.
Was that before this guy owned it?
No, he owned it then.
He moved into another house and locked this one up and turned and then let it sit for a year. That averages 10,966 gallons per month. That's what that average is.
Okay.
Doubles normal use according to the use of in early that you recorded here in August, July of 18. So, it looks like something unusual happened at some point. Did it all happen in February? We can speculate.
Yeah, because I have a question. Is like we said, we said, okay, we're going to give you the 2,000 base for the entire period. So that works out to about 24,000 gallons total. if you take that 131, divide that by 12, it's just around 12,000 gallons a month. But assuming the incident didn't happen in February, if it happened anytime after that, we wouldn't have caught it after 1 month anyways.
Yeah, may not have, may not.
Yes, it may have occurred in May, June, July, or whatever.
Right.
So I think we're going pretty lenient to say, okay, we'll say it happened maybe in March, and we'll give you this adjustment. I think we're being pretty lenient.
Catherine, still.
So y'all thinking we stand by our guns and say that's it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Donna, you hadn't weighed in. Where are you?
I think we have already pretty much addressed this, in my opinion. I agree.
Okay.
Now, if he wants to go before the council, as Greg said, I mean, he has the right to do that, I guess, you know, if he wants to pursue it. But I think we've done what we need to do, in my opinion.
Okay. And we don't have any idea whether he would be satisfied for a reduction in this number or not, sadly either, so. So I'm hearing you all say basically that we stick to he still owes the $388 and was checking the meter wouldn't give us anything, would it, Roger? Or
I could always have the meter tested. But I don't think it would change anything. And for the record, I would tell you that, a lot of times I check the other meters in the immediate area just to make sure that the meter reader was not reading the wrong setting, and I couldn't find any other meters in the immediate vicinity that had any readings that close. I found some that had a 440,000 gallon reading, but not a 471. So I would assume that the meter reader was on the right meter, based on what it is. That particular meter that serves that residence is located right next to an accessory building by the residence. So
its possibility is that somebody came in and got water out of his faucet that he didn't know about.
there he is. I would say this. I mean, I think there's, and I don't know specifically, but I think periodically there's been a residence over by that area that's been shut off, and it's not inconceivable that somebody might have went over and run a hose if they knew that was on to feed theirs. But there's a little side road that's over by that. But I don't know. That's just pure speculation. That can happen. We've seen it happen in the system. The reality of the whole deal was the water should have been turned off when the guy vacated the house, period. He was out of the house 13 months. So, of course, that's his option, obviously, but there's apparently no shut off outside between the meter and the house itself. That's one of the things that we tried to get everybody to take care of, instead of getting in the meter setting to shut them on and off, just have their own shut off.
But your understanding, Roger, is that his complaint is that if I had gotten bills during that long period of time telling me that water was being used, I would have gone out there and turned the water off. Or if I had a leak or whatever, I wouldn't have run up a $320 bill if somebody had sent me an accurate bill.
Yeah, that's my assumption, that's probably what he's thinking.
Yeah, he's not
Well,
saying
what-
very clearly, but that.
You know, in
I would say that
Greg,
he
in
said,
his letter, he says that whether it's a human fault or mechanical fault, I think what he's saying here is that, look, it obviously could not have been zero all these months and then jumped up. So all along, the billing I was getting was inaccurate. Now, whether that's what was intended by the policy or not, but it says billing. And so he's saying that the billing was incorrect. I think is what he's dwelling on.
I agree.
Personally, maybe I'm reading something into this that's not there.
No,
But I think
you're
that's what he's saying, whether he says, because he says whether it was a meter or it was an employee or whatever, there's no way that I used that much water in 1 month. And so the billing did not have a history of accuracy. Now, he's splitting hairs, I think, but
Well, and he may be right, but it doesn't matter, because if we're charging him the lowest per gallon rate that we could possibly charge him for that much water usage, that's, it can't be any less. We couldn't charge him any less.
that's true. I mean, I think, Greg, what he's doing is the ordinance says accuracy of billing. It doesn't say accuracy of meter reading. It says accuracy of billing.
Yeah,
And it's obvious we don't have a history of accurate billing.
no, but it doesn't say that we don't charge
And I
him.
think that's the argument he's making.
Yeah, his complaint concerned the accuracy of billing. And we considered his complaint and adjusted his bill accordingly, right?
We did.
Based upon accuracy of billing. We adjusted his bill from 400 and something to the minimum bill of 300 and something, because we accepted the proposition that it was inaccurately billed, might have been inaccurately billed. And so we charged him the least amount that we could possibly charge for that number of gallons. Right?
Well, he got a minimum charge on there, doesn't he, Roger? Isn't there a minimum charge?
yeah, he was charged for a
We
minimum.
use
2,000
any
gallons.
water or not?
Yeah,
Well, that's what you gave him. So really, I mean, you know, that's what, if the reading was zero, that's what he owed.
Right.
Based on the reader meeting that he provided, right?
That's
He didn't read
correct.
his own
Roger
meter.
took the,
We had an employee supposed to be out there reading.
Yeah.
then Roger took the 2,000
So we
gallons
didn't give him
and gave
anything there. He paid for 2,000 gallons a month.
yeah, he had to pay for a minimum bill, Steve, but what I did is I went back and, I took that, whatever that 2,000 gallon a month was off that total for that 1 month where we had the big bump there. So it's 13 months, I think, 26,000 gallons off the 141 or the 131,600 gallons. I took 26.
But he paid for that.
Yeah, he paid for it. He paid for it.
But we only billed him for the 100 and something gallons rather than the 131 gallons, 31,000 gallons.
So I think, Greg, here's what I would say on that. I mean, we assumed that amount of flow went through that meter at some point in time, okay? And based on the data we had, we assume it went through there the 1 month. That's what our records show. He's saying that, no, that's not the case. It probably went through there multiple months. And if that's the case, we don't have, I guess what he's saying is if he knew that it had been going through there before, he would have took steps to try to fix the leak. You're saying doesn't matter. We can't adjust the bill for that anyway.
Yeah, that would
Only-
take it. I mean,
You're
basically,
saying only the council can.
that, right. Right. We can adjust the bill. Well, and we did adjust the bill for the error that
We
was
did, the
caused,
board did.
that might have been caused by billing. We adjusted it. We adjusted it to the lowest for that amount of water. but we don't have the authority to settle. Basically, he's wanting to assert we have liability because we didn't perform our job correctly. And as a result, he got damaged because if we had done our job right, he would have known earlier that he was using too much water and he would have gone out there and turned his water off. And we're talking about this like it's a $300,000 claim, not like it's a $300 claim. But be that as it may, he's making a liability claim against us. And we as a board don't have the right to settle liability claims. All we have the right to do is adjust bills based upon erroneous billing. Well, so we accepted his proposal that the billing was erroneous. We said, okay, we will charge you the least amount that could possibly have been charged for that number of gallons. And that's all we have the authority to do. If you want to assert a claim against us for not letting you know in time that you had a leak because we didn't do our job right, you're gonna have to settle that with city council. That's beyond our authority. Did that make sense?
So he takes that to council, you can address that issue.
Yep, tell him to take it to the city council. And if they want to settle up with him, that's their prerogative.
Okay. Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
All right, Roger, I'd say we write him back short and sweet. Tell him that we have reviewed his request for the second time and that his next alternative, if he wishes to pursue it further, would be to talk to the city council.
Okay,
Yeah, just tell him we've made all the concession that we have the authority to make by
okay,
reducing his bill to the minimum bill. That's all the authority we have the right to do. And if he wants to pursue it further, the city council, he'll have to go to the city council.
okay.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Roger, bring us up to date on your COVID-19 operations plan.
I just really on that, I sent a copy to all the board members and I just was checking, see if anybody had any questions about it. But what we've essentially done is we've split up all of our operations staff and we've created 3 groups of 3 and have got them separated from each other in case somebody was infected or somebody was exposed to somebody infected, because you guys know what the health department's doing in those cases is they're requiring individuals that are either infected or exposed to someone being infected to self-quarantine for 14 days. We took those measures to make sure that we didn't lose our whole operational staff. It seems to be working okay. We may make some minor adjustments, but we're going to continue to keep them separated. We got a crew that focuses solely on sewers. It's a 3-person crew, and then the other two-person crews are just focusing on water system, and they don't have any overlap. We're trying to minimize that. So. Anybody got any questions?
Okay. Steve seems to be coming in and out. I don't know if he's there or not. Steve, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I just laid the
Okay, no
phone
problem.
down. Was looking
No
through
problem.
some paperwork.
I just want to make sure you were there. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. 19 audit draft. Roger, you want to comment on that? You got from
Yes, sir. So here's we have got the draft audit from our auditor and David Hampton. We've been talking to him about it, and I expect that he'll probably make a presentation next month on it. But one of the things I wanted to alert the board to, and it's going to be something that we may need to factor into during the budget consideration at the end of our operating period and 2019, from our numbers, we felt like we were in pretty good shape. When we got the draft audit back, it didn't show so, and there was reasons for that. We actually are showing through the income expense statement a loss of about $287,000. And a reason for that has to do with the pension system, which is attributable to 215,000 of that. If you remember, when he's done his audit presentations in the past, he's made us aware of the fact that what we pay in may not be may not be meeting the actuarial computations. And so last year's audit, he said we were $215,000 short. Although we paid in what we were told to pay in by the legislature, when they had audited the plans, their computations show that contribution was that much off, which creates quite a bit of concern. Obviously, it didn't hit our cash flow, but it does hit our balance sheet, and it showed as a liability on our balance sheet, and will continue to do so. You know, in the current state of where we're at today in the economy, I suspect we'll take another big hit in 2020. So we've got to come to grips with that, and that's not just a water issue. That's a city issue in general on how we deal with that, and all the communities across the state are having to deal with it. The other issue involves some depreciation estimates, and then when they went through the audit, they jacked the depreciation amounts up pretty significantly. We haven't seen the statements yet, but they ended up being about $53,000 more a year than what we had computed. But again, you know, that's a number, again, I won't say it's a complete paper entry, because we use depreciation as an expense against operation. That's what generates our cash flow for debt service and for putting cash on maintenance type items. So that's in there. That said, he should be checking in with us next month, I think, with the audit presentation, and we just need to be cued in on that. We're going to talk a little bit more about budget tonight, and those are just some things that we've got to consider as we go forward. We need to make sure that we've got our eyes on these issues. So,
Okay, we just wanted to update you all on the fact that we are taking that big hit because of the shortfall in the pension at the state, and they're trying to, it's an accrual. It's not an real expense at this point, but if we were shut down today, we'd have to try to come up with that kind of money. So the wastewater treatment plant agreed order, Roger, we coming along with that?
yeah, I wanted to just briefly update you on it so we don't forget where we're at on that. Of course, we're under a binding an agreement to do certain things, and I reviewed it, and we're okay. You know, one of the things I'd mentioned, we're doing that pilot project on parasitic acid. That's gone pretty well. We've been in contact with the state, and they've asked permission to reopen our discharge permit and change our monitoring location to the outfall at the river, which would allow us to have some more contact time. We have had problems in compliance with E. coli when we've done our monitoring at our permitted monitoring point up in the plant. And the reason for that, we don't have enough detention time. But when you factor in the amount of detention time in the effluent lift station and the pipeline to the river, we've got enough time, and we've done check sampling and testing there, and we were able to demonstrate that we're getting an adequate kill. So that's good news, and that maybe we can forego having to make a capital expenditure there. We do have our agreement lined out with Rivercrest in that group, and they're working on the rest of the improvements associated with the agreed order, and I think we can work to stay on schedule there and get this thing moving so we can wrap it up. I try to report to the board every month on that, because that's a big deal. I mean, cost wise, it will be a big deal too, and we'll be discussing that as we move through the capital planning and the budget process.
Have you got any idea how much percent complete we are on that, or is all of this that we're coming up with going to be
Well, I mean, in terms of effort, I would give it a 50% complete in terms of effort. In terms of dollars, I'm gonna say I'm gonna guess that we're probably on the order of 35 or 40% complete. Some of the other construction we got to do is going to be quite a bit more expensive. One of the biggest issues that we still hanging is getting rid of the rest of the residuals, and we're reviewing that and trying to see, you know, what's going to be the most cost effective way to do that.
Okay. All right, you want to talk about capital improvement planning and vehicle replacement?
Yeah, I put in everybody's packet here, the sheets, kind of lay the groundwork for discussions of capital improvements. And the way I looked at that is the 2019 plan was, in terms of identifying mostly what we had in front of us for priorities, it was pretty good. There are going to be some projects that are ongoing that are going to be carryovers that we'll need to discuss. And what I'd propose to do is just get with the committees here, and we'll do some conference calls in this next couple of days and try to get the tables in line so we can move forward to see where we're headed with on the budget. We probably, you know, the biggest deal is our needs far exceed probably what our funding ability is right now. So we're going to be faced with trying to spread these projects out over a period of time. One thing that I would tell you that we're monitoring pretty closely is we feel like there's going to be a fiscal stimulus program, and it's going to be related to infrastructure. And we think water and sewer is going to be funded pretty heavily within that program. And we're trying to get ourselves positioned where we can put this water treatment plant out in front of the feds on that, with the hopes of getting a significant amount of grant funding with that project. You know, it was in our needs listing on the WRIS site, so it's been under consideration. They know the project's out there and exists. So that's what we're going to try to make a move on that if we can. And I know it's premature and it's not committal to any degree, but we'd like to go ahead and put that project in the stack as a project for Calvert City. And if the board's good with that, there's a pre-application process. We have to make an application by Thursday of this week. I've got Strand Associates working on that right now and try to get that ready. So this could be one of those opportunities that we won't see again for a while. The best hopes I had before in talking with y'all about it is maybe a 30% grant type project through RDA, and that's still a possibility. But I would hope that we might qualify for a little more grant funds if we could tie this thing to job retention or job creation, that we might get a little more than that. So we'll try to be creative and see how we can do on this project. Anybody got any thoughts on that? Or
Roger, or this is Steve, are they looking for shovel-ready projects, you think?
they're looking for them, but they're not going to, I'm going to be honest, Steve, I don't think that they've got that many shovel-ready projects out there of this magnitude, you know, what I'm talking about. There are utility line projects that are out there that can be done, but this is a project that's got big bang, and my contention would be is by the time they had everything ready, you know, we could be shovel ready if we needed to be.
Yeah. So our engineering firm is moving in that direction, correct? To be ready with the plan?
That's what we're trying to do right now is, you know, in terms of a preliminary engineering type report, they're trying to finish their draft on that so they can, you know, stand up there and say, hey, look, we can be shovel ready, you know, in a matter of months on this thing if it needs to be.
Right.
Okay. The budget process, you covered a little of that in that conversation. And did you cover everything there you wanted to talk about?
Well, I mean, so we're right here at the 1st of April, and like we always are, then we got April and May to work the budget out. And most likely after we have the committee consensus on what our capital projects are going to be that we want to face up with on priorities, my idea would be is to generate that draft budget out and get it distributed and get everybody looking at it. And we may very well need to have a workshop meeting to discuss how we're going to proceed. I foresee this budget to be a pretty tough budget this year. I'm going to guess just right out of the gate that our needs far exceed what our available resources are. And then secondly, my concern would be, I don't know how long this COVID-19 deal is going to go on, but the longer it goes on, it's going to impact our revenues. I mean, I think we can make the assumption that our industries will fare well, but I'm not sure about that. I don't know on the macroeconomic side of things how big a hit these industries are going to take, or are they going to take some pretty big hits on their orders, or they're going to lower their production numbers? And we really, I don't think anybody knows right now specifically where that's going to. So for us, that's a big deal because, 60-65% of our usage is industrial in nature.
Makes it a little hard to plan, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, what are y'all hearing out in your area about going forward and so forth in the chemical area? Are you hearing anything out there?
Our plant's full blast. We can't make enough. But then again, we're a major ingredient in Purell.
Yeah, it explains a lot.
Yeah, so it's a nice position to be in, but then it's not a nice position to be in.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Roger, did you get what you needed from us to move ahead on that application on that grant?
I mean, I don't know that it takes a vote or anything. Greg, you may know that, but I need to make sure you guys are okay with us putting it's a pre-application. It's not an application. It's a pre-app, just to screen us in, to get us in the stack.
Is it committing us to anything?
I'm fine with it.
It's not committing us to anything.
No, I think we ought to do what we got to do to be ready in case there is something there for us to jump on and get some dollars for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why don't you guys go ahead and just officially
Amen.
Somebody officially authorize him to proceed, just to sort of cover Roger's rear end.
Okay. Steve, you want to do that?
So move, Roger. I will.
Bill second.
A second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
All right. Keep moving on, Roger. We ready for chapter 50, Greg? Water, sewer ordinance.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I forgot in here what you guys told me to do last time. We're leaving we still don't have the numbers for 42 for the different size services, but that's up to Roger. But we're charging everybody 42, we're charging everybody a deposit based on the size of their service. 44A really has no change in it. It's 15% after 15 days and $35 after 30 days. Subparagraph C covers the situation where a bill is not paid. We've already applied the deposit and we've got a new customer that comes in and makes application. We're going to go ahead and let that new customer make application so long as they're not owned or controlled by the previous customer or the owner. And then the subparagraph D is what what the fellow was just talking about. There's no changes to that. Our ability to change, to modify a bill. There's really no, I don't, other than maybe a typo somewhere, there's nothing, no real changes in B or E. What, all we've really done is just said, okay, we're gonna charge everybody a deposit. We're gonna apply that deposit if they don't get paid within 30 days. And we're not gonna hook you back up unless, we're not gonna hook you back up or any member of your family or any member of your owner's family or anybody related until the bill's paid and the deposit is reinstated. But if somebody new and clean comes in making application at that site, we're gonna let them have service. That's all, that's what we've got. Is that what you guys told me to do?
Sounds like it to me.
What does deposit reinstated mean, Greg? Remind me.
Well, see, at that point, we will have already applied the deposit to the unpaid bill.
Yes, sir.
And so before we're gonna hook them back up, they're gonna have to reinstate, they're gonna have to repay that bill, that deposit.
Yeah, there you go.
Before they
Okay.
get reconnected.
I'm good with that.
And they have to pay their bill. And they have to pay the bill also, the
Yeah.
delinquent bill, right?
Yes.
Yes, if there's anything
And
left
a new
unpaid,
deposit.
if there's anything left unpaid from that
Okay.
previous bill. I mean, we will have
Okay,
applied their
good.
deposit.
The delinquent bill had been paid with the deposit unless it was greater than the amount of the deposit.
Right.
Okay,
So
Okay.
that's taking a step toward resolving. That's taking a step away from where we were, and at least it doesn't leave property unserved. We don't get the criticism that we were drawing because a subsequent purchaser was winding up having to pay their seller's bill.
Mhm.
That's what we're avoiding. That's all we're avoiding, really.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay.
I see you shaking your head. Are you good?
Yeah,
Pardon?
I said, Donna, you good on that? I see you shaking your
Yes,
head.
yes, I'm good on all that. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Roger, do you have the numbers yet?
Well, here's a suggestion on the numbers, okay? Right now, we charge $150 for a 5/8 by 3/4 service, okay? And just looking, I would suggest $1,000 for a 1-inch meter service. And I would suggest $2,500 for a 2-inch service. That's, I mean, if you're talking about an average bill that you might be looking at, those are some numbers. And they seem like big dollars, but those are commercial style services. If anything, the 1-inch service, you could go a little bit lower than that. You know, you might do
That's a
Not-
house, isn't it?
yeah, well, a 1-inch service, some sprinkler systems require 1-inch service. So, you know, you may drop it down, but when you get to a 2-inch service, a 2-inch service, it's not going to be uncommon for a 2-inch service to use 1 million gallons a month. So 1 million gallons, you know, that's where I came up with 1 million gallons is worth about $2,500 worth of water.
So do we need to have a lower one for for a regular house?
We're charging $150. That's about what they're saying on $150. So that's about 2 months worth of bills for a residential service.
What I'm wanting to know is,
Yeah.
what do I put on this ordinance? I've got 1-inch, 2-inch, and larger than 2 inches. Do I need to have different categories?
Well, we do have 1.5 inch meter size, so we probably need to add one of those in there.
Okay, what does number one? What's the smallest service?
5/8 by 3/4.
That's what it's called, 5/8 inch by 3/4 inch?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious. How can we have two different sizes on the same line?
The meter's actually 5/8 inch and the service is 3/4.
Oh, okay, do we need a category like that?
Can we just call it 3/4 inch?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, Here's what you got meter size wise. You got a 5/8 by 3/4, a 3/4, a 1 inch, a 1.5 inch, a 2 inch. And usually if you don't say larger than 2 inch, anything
Okay.
larger than 2 inch, Greg, in that category, it's going to be hard to define a deposit amount number. You know, my suggestion on it would be have some kind of standardized agreement that you make each of those larger customers sign. Here.
Well, I'm
I
not
think
gonna
that's
write
how most
anything down. I'm not gonna write anything down. You all just talk about it, and then Roger, you send me the category, define the category, and tell me how much deposit, and we'll put that in this ordinance. But I need
Okay.
the category defined. And if you need a big one that's, I don't know how, that would be hard to do.
So one thing I'd want to talk to the board about is yeah, the cost can be manageable up to about 2 inches, but man, if you get up to, let's just say a 3-inch meter, for example, a 3-inch meter typically is going to be anywhere from 3 to 4 million gallons a month to use. So one bill, if the idea is I've got that deposit to keep somebody running off and leaving me hanging with that one bill, technically 1 month worth of usage, in that category, 3 to 4 million gallons a month, is going to be somewhere around $8,000 to $10,000 probably, and that's a pretty big deposit to make. It's going to be hard to hook up there with, most of your people are going to have a little heartburn on it. I think most of the utilities that I'm aware of on a larger user like that will normally execute an agreement with each individual entity that has the larger meter service, and that agreement would normally cover more than just that part of it. I know that's another layer of bureaucracy, but that's typically how it's done. So,
Well, in a privately owned utility, that's pretty easy to do. But when you're talking about a publicly owned utility, I don't know. I don't know about giving the board. I don't know. We need to think about that. Giving the board absolute authority to set that deposit anywhere they wanted to. I don't know, but I don't know. That's an odd thing.
Yeah, I have a opinion on the 3-inch and big meters. Is those are going to be for new facilities that are using millions of gallons of water a year, and a $3, $4, $5 or more $1,000 tap fee is not going to be anything significant to their total cost of their facility. It'll probably run 3 times that just to get the line in the ground and into their process. So you're not talking about a family where they're going to get a $5,000 bill right at the beginning. You're talking big companies, and they expect that.
so if y'all are okay with it, it's easy for me to say in our system roughly how much water is being used by a customer that has a 3-inch meter, because I can look. We don't have that many of them, and we can average them. Same goes for a 4-inch meter. We've got a few 4-inch meters. We got several 1.5-inch meters, and I can average the usage on those meters and kind of compute an average bill. With that, how many months would you want that bill, that deposit, to be able to hang in there to cover a bill in case one went delinquent? That's a policy deal that you might want to look at. Is it 1 month? Is it half a month? Or is it 2 months? Or what would you like to do?
Roger, I think that residential and business and light industries were where we wanted to put most of our focus, because that's the issues that we dealt with as a group. So if, I don't know, the meter size is probably the best way to get it, but I would add that 5/8 by 3/4 inch. You said it's 150. And then the 1 inch that's kind of getting into the business area. I don't know that we even want to get into it. 'Cause the last thing the heavy industry, I don't know, even I don't have a clue how to deal with something like that, Paul. I just don't know how to deal with it.
So here's what I would.
I certainly want them to be here and using our water.
When I do this, let me put together a table, and distribute it, and then, just have it ready for the next meeting with some options for you so you can check, just make a decision on what you want to do. And in doing that, I'll take a look at some of the other folks that have deposits that big and just see what they're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
comments in general, is going back to what Steve said. I mean, who has been the problem when we've had these delinquencies? That's the ones we really want to be super careful on. If we can group some of these other together with something somewhat reasonable in terms of the dollar amounts, I say instead of giving it 1 inch, 2 inch, and larger than 2 inch, we change this to category A, B, and C, and let you use some discretion, Roger, on what would go in those categories. That would be a fair amount that we all agree would work. It seems reasonable for the customers that are doing it. I don't want to burden anybody, but we certainly don't want to get caught up in these delinquencies anymore. That's all we're trying to do, is who's going to pay the bill is what this comes down to.
Greg, could you put something in there that says that industry or 3-inch meters or something like that would be handled on a case-by-case basis with
We could, but if we were going to do something like that, we would probably want to make it formulaic. We would want to say something like, make some reference to anticipated usage or documented usage or certified by their. You wouldn't want to just throw it open, and you wouldn't want it to be without some sort of a metric for measuring, for establishing. You would want it to give the administrator some sort of calculation or guideline to do. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Because all of those, most of the ones out there are going to be the 3 inches and larger meters and so forth, and the usage. So it's going to be very difficult to, and I agree with Paul. If you had a $10,000 deposit or a $15,000 deposit, and they're opening up a business, that's not going to be a huge number for them, but it may not be sufficient enough to cover their usage if they're using. Take Vodka, for example, Roger, if we get them moved over to the city, what would they be running on?
Well, Doctor's probably using 1.5 million, 2 million gallons a month.
Yeah.
So,
So to cover that with the deposit, you're not going to be able to really get that done. You're going to have a water utility contract type thing with them. It's got some language in it for payment or whatever.
Yeah, our objective is just not to get stuck with a bad bill.
Right.
That's.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I disagree. I think we inevitably are going to get caught with a bad bill. Have we put in a kind of our own insurance with our deposit system so that we're covered almost all of it? I mean,
We don't want to get killed by a bad bill. Maybe
go.
that's the better way to say it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
okay, Roger, I think you go ahead and put together that table you was talking about. We'll get it to Greg, and then we'll see where we go with this.
okay.
Now, one other comment to you, Greg, was do we need to share with the board what the mayor did as far as his
Oh, sure. Yeah.
special, what was it he called, a special
Executive order.
executive order? Yeah.
Yeah. The PSC, who is not our regulator, we're not subject to the Public Service Commission, but the Public Service Commission governs all privately owned utilities, and they have an order out that says there won't be any disconnections of water during this COVID virus epidemic. And the rationale is if you don't have water, you can't wash your hands. And you also are maybe complicating the symptoms of this emergency. Not to mention, you're also encouraging face-to-face confrontation and contact between employees and people whose water's just been cut off. And so there's been a lot of talk among the cities in Kentucky, and to my knowledge, every city that's addressed the issue have addressed it more or less the same way, and that is by executive order, saying the executive, meaning the mayor's office, is directing the employees of the city not to disconnect any water service because of non-payment until further notice, because it threatens public health and safety. So we had the city council entered a municipal order recognizing the mayor's authority to enter that emergency order. We've got 3 statutes that also grant that authority, and then the mayor entered that executive order. So basically, the 15% penalty is still on. If you don't pay in 15 days, it's still on. The $35 penalty at the end of the 30 days is being suspended, and the disconnection is being suspended. It's not a perfect solution in my estimation, but when you're in a war in the foxhole, you do what you have to do. That's kind of where we are.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure y'all were all aware of that, so that there would not be any disconnections going on for foreseeable future. So, but we do still expect people to pay their bills. So,
We hope.
all right, Roger, you want to talk about payroll direct deposits to employees and electronic payments?
So I'm gonna let Glenda talk about this one. There's a couple of things that we want to do to enhance our software systems. We have placed a new server into operation here at City Hall, and we elected to stay our software stay resident on the server in lieu of going with the cloud. And a couple of things that we've been continually asked to do was to go to electronic payment. And the other thing that we wanted to do was to go to direct deposit on the payroll. So Glenda, if you got just a minute, can you explain what we want to do there?
On the direct deposit, the mayor has already signed the agreement, and because there's a $695 flat charge, then they will charge $175 an hour for training and installation, but they are actually going to do that in the morning. We already have that scheduled. So that is already going to be taken care of. The employees have been asking for that for quite some time, and I think it'll be a great thing. As far as the other with the credit card or the electronic payments, it would be great for us to have that, of course, and with everything happening now, we see that it would really be nice. United Systems did send us a quote. They will charge a setup fee and training for the web portal. It'd be $1,500. They would also charge an annual hosting fee of $1,255. Of course, they'll also charge the $175 hourly fee, but they said that's probably only going to be 1 to 3 hours to train us on that. So, but then we'll have to have someone that takes care of that. So they use Next Bill Pay. So I did reach out to them today. They did send me kind of their fee proposal. And it looks like with, if you use like the online payment portal, then you would be charged a flat fee of $2.50 for a bill from $0 to $1 or from 1 cent to $150. After that, up to $5,000, you would be charged 2.75%. So that's their fee. We're not charged anything. The customer is going to absorb all of the cost on this. Let's see, if you use e-check, there's a flat fee of $2 to do that. Then, let's see, they could pay with the phone payment portal. And there again, it's those same rates for that. So I know this, it would be an adjustment, but I think customers are already used to that. When they use their credit card, they're used to a fee.
Have you talked to any local banks about doing that for you?
I have not.
We've got a credit card payment online through CFSV. That might be an option.
And they take care of it for you
Yeah.
with your billing system?
It's not tied in directly to our billing system, I don't think, but
Okay.
the one we use with our billing system is handled by the software people, Desert Micro. So,
Okay.
and that one is better because it feeds right directly into the customer's account when they pay. So we don't have
Right.
to.
And that's what this next bill pay would do with United Systems. They work directly with United Systems. So if someone went online, they could just pull up their bill and see exactly how much it is and pay it right there. Or they could text and pay it. They could call and pay it. They can come in the office and pay it when we open back up, but we won't ever store any of their information. That's a great thing. It would all be stored through next bill.
Okay.
So just an option.
Yeah. Okay. Now, that's something that you all will find to be a very handy thing, a very tool to.
Oh, I think so. We were asked all the time about that.
All right. Okay, it looks like we're down to other items as appropriate. Anybody got anything?
Kind of ties to that, going back to Water Capital Project Committee. I hope we can get back to getting the AMI and AMR meters, get that bidding process going again. We got, snagged by the third-party advertising, and I think what we got there was something for less, but then we found out it was going to be more because of the third-party advertising. So I think we need to look at that again, and if we have to pay a little bit more so we don't have third-party advertising, then let's not be afraid to look at those bids. Just like what you're just talking about, we need to move into the 21st century electronic billing. We need to have these meter readings. We need people to be able to just look at their bill. So in the future, if somebody sees on their bill that it's gone up 131,000, 1 month, they'll know it and they'll be calling us, and it'll all be electronic and software will gig all that. So let's spend that money to get our system into this century more, let these systems do the monitoring that they can. If we have to use our capital to do that or to borrow to do it, let's do it.
Yeah. Roger, you've been doing a little bit of looking at that, haven't you, on the side?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I have, and so, I'm definitely wanting to move forward to that. And so we're talking about buying them instead of trying to get into a lease program. And I've got some cost information, and I'll talk to Donna and Steve about that when we get into trying to see what that's going to cost from a budgetary standpoint. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to implement that. We could try to do it all at once, or we can phase it as well too. And I think both of those methods probably deserve some consideration. Ultimately, we want to have that AMI system because we can use that to attack our water loss later on by using zone meter points, and combined with the AMI data coming in through the customer, we can pretty much tell where all our losses are coming to. So
Okay, all right. Anybody else? Good to see y'all.
Good to
Likewise.
see you.
And nobody's sniffing
Yes,
or.
good to see
That's great.
everybody.
Huh?
Yeah,
What's that, Greg?
Nobody's sniffling or coughing. That's really, really good.
Yep, it's good.
Eat my fruits and vegetables.
You
Paul?
need a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
second,
Yes,
Thanks,
Yeah.
Yeah,
guys.
I make that motion.
okay, motion in a second. Who seconded? it?
Second,
Okay, Donna
I'll
seconded. it.
second.
I'll third it.
Don.
All right. Y'all stay safe.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you.
Have a good week, guys.
Bye-bye.